Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. We are now going to be talking with Qari Ziyaad Patel. He's from the Al-Imdaad Foundation, and we're going to be touching on something pretty sensitive, very, very sad indeed. It's a humanitarian catastrophe which awaits northwestern Syria, and this is obviously because Russia has vetoed much needed aid to the region. So, what exactly is happening on the ground, and how does this then also impact on the charity work that is being carried out by Al-Imdaad Foundation? Qari Ziyaad Patel, Assalamu alaikum, welcome to the program.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. Thank you so much for the opportunity this beautiful morning.
Alhamdulillah, always a pleasure talking to you guys and commending you at Al-Imdaad Foundation for the amazing work you guys carry out. But undoubtedly, this story does create a lot of concern for Al-Imdaad, and I should imagine all other voluntary and charitable organizations. What exactly is going on here? It almost seems as if Russia is now is going to be holding the whole world at bay. It seems as if they're showing and they're flexing their muscles, isn't it?
So basically, what happens is every year at the United Nations, this arrangement is discussed and it's voted for, and it's actually passed. It's basically a humanitarian gesture, which gives access to Turkey to basically oversee the Bab al-Hawa border crossing into Syria. And I mean, that's been an arrangement every year. It's been a gentleman's agreement. And we never ever expect that everyone would use their veto powers to actually offset this. So this has come as a surprise. It has come as a surprise. We don't know what are the true dynamics. Maybe the political situation which is playing out, or the war which is playing out between Russia and Ukraine, and maybe Russia trying to just basically make a point. It could be that, or it could be otherwise. I'm sure other political analysts may differ, or they may have a bit more insight into this entire situation. But it's quite sad that actually Russia vetoed this entire arrangement, because this is a crucial border crossing which allows tons, literally thousands of tons of humanitarian aid to enter into Syria. And now with that coming to a close, firstly, I don't know how it's going to play out. Number one, how would Syria actually want to take control of that border crossing, and how they would want to arrange humanitarian aid entering into Syria. So that's going to be something which we will be watching very, very, very closely. But I do know that there are negotiations behind the scenes which are still in play, hoping for an amicable solution to this. I mean, because this happens every year. It's just a kind of a formality where at the United Nations they will come together, they will agree on this, they will vote on it, and it will be allowed to go through, and not a problem at all. It's the very, very first time that Russia has actually vetoed this. As we do know, Russia has sided with the Assad regime in this war against the innocent Syrians. That's a whole political discussion which we don't want to get into. And ourselves, we are purely humanitarian, so we look primarily at the humanitarian situation on the ground. So all I can say to you, where there's a will, there is a way. Where there is a will, there is a way. So Allah Azza wa Jal will open up other doors for us to fill the bellies and to help those innocent women and children that are literally in the thousands in the refugee camps on that part of the Syrian border.
And Allah is indeed the best of planners. Now, I understand that the UN cross-border system has been in effect since 2014, and it helps more than 2.4 million people in the Idlib region, which is under the control of various militant and rebel groups opposed to the Syrian government. That could possibly be one of the reasons why Russia has now vetoed this humanitarian corridor from being active. If
The
We
status
make
quo on
lots of
the
dua.
ground
We make
has
lots of dua, inshallah, that, Allah is the best of planners, and somehow, somewhere, the aid does go through. But if it doesn't, what sort of consequences are we looking at?
So firstly, the status quo on the ground hasn't changed. It has been at this for a few years already, where you have the few groups which are out there, where you have the Syrian military, which is also trying to bring about some kind of normality to the region. All I can assure you one thing is that I do know the fact that the Turkish government will leave no stone unturned to make sure that those border crossings are going to be open to trickle in the much needed aid. There may be extra formalities. There may be certain requirements which will be requested and required from humanitarians and humanitarian agencies, but they cannot stop humanitarian aid indefinitely from entering into that region. There are literally 2.5 million people on the ground that depend on the crossing to receive their daily bread, because a lot of the bakeries are sitting also on the Turkish side, and daily the fresh bread is taken across the border into Syria. So they will find a solution. A solution will be found. And all I can say to you is that the game which Russia has played with a veto, it's purely a political one. It's purely a political one to score some political points. We have spoken to our partners on the ground, and for now, there's nothing to worry about. They have also indicated to us that there are discussions and negotiations behind the scenes, and very soon there will be an amicable solution. And there are other options as well. There are there are many other options as to how we can still filter in the aid. So inshallah ta'ala, it's not all gloom and doom. There are options, there are solutions, and we are still holding our fingers crossed, and we are making dua that Allah will allow light to find its way very, very quickly soon. Ameen.
Inshallah, Amin. And finally, Qari Ziyaad Patel, I'm just wondering, your people on the ground and other aid workers, with a situation like this playing out, doesn't put them at any risk, does it?
But as I mentioned earlier on, the Turkish military has a very, very strong presence in the region. In fact, I was there last week. Alhamdulillah, we find that it's quite normal. There's a lot of security, yes. There's a lot of protocol. There's a lot of procedure. But the work of day seems to be carrying on. The business of day seems to be carrying on in a somewhat, I would say, very, very peaceful way. Alhamdulillah, in a very, very, very formal way. Work is carrying on. Yes, I don't foresee any more fighting or sporadic fighting to be erupting on that border region. I think there is quite a good arrangement so far. If the Syrian regime decides to come out and retake that territory and to stamp their authority, that may then create another problem or another issue at hand. But for now, I don't foresee this happening, inshallah.
Okay, inshallah, and that will we leave it. Shukran very much for talking with us. That was Qari Ziyaad Patel from the Al-Imdaad Foundation. The time is exactly 9 o'clock.